Welcome to Kalos' Gaming Table. I am Kalos. For the next installment of my Weapons of Battletech series, I'm going to talk about a weapon that can reach across the battlefield and wreck the Op fort, sometimes not even needing to have line of sight to the target. Yes, today we're going to go over the long-range missile. What is an LRM? The LRM, or long-range missile, is a missile that is fired from a specialty launcher, the LRM launcher. They were designed to bypass ECM so they can go a long distance, but they're not quite as accurate as direct-fire weapons. The LRM launcher does not fire a single missile, but a large volley of them. LRMs can be found on the lightest of mechs, like the Locust, all the way up to the big boys of the franchise, such as the Atlas, and everywhere in between. Most mechs seem to have some sort of an LRM variant, whether it makes sense or not. Like the autocannon, LRMs are grouped based upon the amount of damage that they can do potentially, namely the LRM 5, 10, 15, and 20. Now, I did say potentially. The reason for this is, even if you did hit with, say, your LRM 20, there is a pretty high probability that not all of that payload will land on target. So, how does this work? Well, first, you have to roll to hit. If you miss, well, that's it and you move on to your next weapon. But if you hit, then the fun begins. Let's assume that you have an LRM 20 and you successfully rolled a hit. Great. So you've hit with your LRM 20, you do 20 points of damage, like an AC-20, right? Well, not quite. Well, you see, the missiles are not as accurate as we'd like, and they don't all hit the same location. So now we need to consult the cluster table and see how many of those 20 missiles actually hit. You rolled an 8 on 2d6. Looking at the chart, 8 on the 20 table means you're going to do 12 points of damage, right? Yes, but... You see, LRM missile damage is broken up into clusters of 5. Since we did 12 points of damage, we're going to divide that 12 by 5. That gives us 2 groupings of 5 and 1 group of 2 left over. Hang in there with me, we're almost done. Now that we know the damage groupings, we get to roll hit locations for each of them. For the first 5-pointer, we rolled 7, center torso, 5 points of damage goes there. On the second grouping, we rolled a 5, so that'll be 5 points of damage to the right leg. For the last 2 points, we rolled boxcars, or 12, so those last 2 points go to the mech's head. So yeah, there's a bit more work that goes into LRMs, and it can be frustrating at times, but like anything else, repetition does build familiarity. LRMs typically will flow with the bell curve, 7 on 2d6 as an average, but sometimes you'll roll higher, or if you're me, you'll roll lower. Why then would you want to take them if they can't guarantee full damage? Well, there's a few different reasons. LRMs can provide a threat radius going way out on the battlefield. LRM short range is 7 hexes, medium range is 14 hexes, and long range is 21 hexes. LRMs also have the ability to fire indirectly, namely, you don't have to have line of sight. So long as you have a spotter that can see the target in question, the LRM launcher can take a shot. LRMs are also able to fire specialty munitions, but we'll touch on that a bit later in the video. LRMs do have a few downsides, however. First, they're ammo dependent. Once you've fired that last volley and emptied your ammo bins, your mech will have to fall back to any point defense weapons that it has, such as medium lasers. On the upside, if you do empty your LRM bins, I'm looking at you, Mr. Catapult, you won't have to worry about a possible ammo crit. The second downside is that LRMs have a minimum range penalty of 6. Yes, 6 hexes. That means that any targets that are within 6 hexes will be more difficult to hit. +1 if at 6 hexes, +2 at 5 hexes, all the way up to +6 at 1 hex range. This means you want to keep your LRM boats in the rear to avoid this. Now, having said that, 7 hexes is the sweet spot for LRMs. 7 hexes is short range, but just outside of the minimum range, and that means any range penalties are now non-existent. The third potential issue you can run into with LRMs is the same for almost every mech with ammo. If you go up in too much heat, there's a chance that your ammo will cook off. This happens infrequently, but after an engine hit or two, being hit with some Inferno missiles, plus alpha striking, well, things can get spicy. Sure, the lowest cutoff for an ammo check is a 4+, but dice can roll 1s and 2s, and I have seen an archer go up like Guy Fawkes Knight after they overheated on a 3. Now, let's go over some different flavors of the LRM launcher. The LRM-5 is the smallest of the LRM launchers. It weighs 2 tons and generates 2 heat when fired. A single ton of ammo will give you 24 volleys, so that 1 ton of ammo will probably last you an entire battle. The LRM-5 is an aggravating weapon for me, as you probably won't hit with all 5 missiles, averaging 3 missiles at best, sometimes less. I personally feel that the LRM-5 is one of the worst weapons in Battletech, but if you're fielding a unit with it, go ahead and use it. Next we have the LRM-10, which weighs 5 tons and generates 4 heat when fired. 1 ton of ammo will net you 12 volleys, so again you probably won't run out of ammunition from a single battle, unless you are running multiple LRM-10 launchers. The average number of missiles to hit would be 7, so that would be a grouping of 5 and a grouping of 2. The LRM-15 is a great mix between the 10 and the 20. The LRM-15 weighs 7 tons and will generate 5 heat when fired. 1 ton of ammo will only give you 8 volleys, however, so targets should be carefully selected to avoid wasting ammunition. The average number of missiles hitting with the LRM-15 is 9, so that would be a grouping of 5 and a grouping of 4. The big boy of the LRM pack is the LRM-20. The LRM-20 weighs 10 tons and generates 6 heat when fired. You'll have 6 volleys with a single ton of ammunition. Rolling completely average, you'll have 12 missiles hit, so 2 groupings of 5 and a single grouping of 2. Now, I know that I did say that the minimum range for the LRMs is 6 hexes. Time for that big clanner caveat you knew was coming. This should be no shock to anyone, but the clan LRM launchers do not have a minimum range penalty, and generally weigh a bit less. I can only imagine the shock when somebody charged towards a Timberwolf, getting within 2 hexes, only to get hammered with 2 ER large lasers, 2 ER medium lasers, and 2 LRM-20s, all with 0 minimum range penalties. Woof. If you're enjoying the content that I'm making and want to help keep it going, go ahead and like, subscribe, and share the videos with others, plus comment below. This gets my channel in front of more viewers and helps me out more than you can know. If you want to help out the channel a bit more substantially, you can also click on my Ko-fi link below. Thank you so much. Now, LRMs do have something to help them out. Take the Artemis 4 fire control system, for example. It ties into the LRM launcher and adds +2 to your cluster roll, making them even more accurate. You cannot go above a 12, however. The Artemis system can be foiled by ECM. Another tool to help with LRM cluster rolls is the NARC beacon. The NARC beacon is a small homing beacon that can be fired at a target. If the to-hit roll is successful, the NARC beacon attaches itself to the target, sending out a signal. That signal will help draw NARC-equipped missiles to the beacon. In game terms, this gives all units armed with NARC-equipped missiles a +2 to their cluster table roll against whatever target has been NARCed. Another bonus, if a unit is armed with NARC-equipped LRMs, it can fire indirectly at the NARCed target and not incur the indirect fire penalty. If they do fire indirectly, they won't be able to take that +2 cluster table roll. Some mechs also have a defense against incoming LRMs in the form of an anti-missile system, or AMS. A mech can activate their AMS against a single volley of incoming missiles, and the result from the cluster table will be at -4, which would take a roll of a 10 down to a 6. You cannot go below 2, however. Later in the timeline, the clans decided to give the LRMs the streak treatment, namely if you hit, all of the missiles hit, no cluster rolls needed. Stupid clan cheese. To be fair, streak LRMs are double the weight of a normal LRM launcher, and they can't fire any specialty munitions, but I'm pretty sure the OPFOR will hate getting hit with a full barrage of missiles. Speaking of specialty munitions for LRMs, what are specialty munitions? Well, these are different missile types that can be fired from your LRM that might not operate like your standard LRM payload. Take semi-guided munitions as an example. The damage that the missiles do is business as usual, but these are more advanced missiles. You do have to have a spotter with tag to light up the target, however. If you're able to successfully tag your target, those LRM rounds will ignore the TMM of said target. That fire moth that's been plaguing you, if you're successfully able to tag it, those LRMs will ignore its TMM. If fired indirectly, the missiles will also not suffer the +1 penalty for indirect fire. Now, one thing to keep in mind, semi-guided munitions are expensive. In game terms, there are some additional calculations to actually pay the battle value for semi-guided munitions. Most players who use them will build their rosters using Mech to have it do the math for them. Also, lore-wise, semi-guided munitions are difficult to come by outside of the Free Worlds League. It's also a good idea to let your opponent know that you're fielding these, as they can be an unwelcome surprise to somebody that doesn't know that they're coming. You also have Thunder missiles. Thunder rounds allow the pilot to fire a missile, not at a mech, but at a hex. These rounds will lay a minefield, which can damage a mech's legs if they walk through it. There is a variant of the LRM that is the MML, or Multi-Missile Launcher. An MML is just a missile launcher that has the ability to fire either SRMs or LRMs. That makes them very flexible, able to light up a target at long range, and then flip a switch and sandblast enemies in a shorter range bracket, such as within the minimum range of that LRM. You have the MML3, MML5, MML7, and the MML9. Each number lets you know which column on the cluster table to roll on. So, LRMs run the gamut, from the suboptimal LRM5 to the punishing LRM20. The range of the LRMs is a great selling point, especially if you have some clear lanes of fire. Even if you don't, if you have a spotter, those LRM volleys can be fired indirectly. Sure, it's a bit harder to hit, but it could be worth it. The minimum range of the inner sphere LRMs does mean that you need to have some screening units, otherwise you might have to forego that large payload for more close-in weapons. However, desperate times can call for desperate measures, and firing within the minimum range is an option, but don't be too upset if you miss. LRMs are not my favorite weapon because of the cluster rolls can run from the annoying downright to the frustrating. Anytime I have to roll dice, that just gives the dice another chance to Brutus me. Still, LRMs can be a very effective tool, especially if you're going to take out some emplacements, as those are immobile and have a -4 to hit. The Archer is a famous LRM boat, boasting 2 LRM-20 launchers and ammunition to spare. Or the Catapult, if you don't have enough BV for an Archer, with twin LRM-15s. If you're really on a budget, Trebuchet is a medium mech that has 2 LRM-15s, just don't go walking into a gun line. You could be a medium mech with armor, or you can have 2 LRM-15s, but you really can't have both. And then you have the Bane 3, which can be absolutely terrifying. The Bane 3 has 8, yes, 8 LRM-15s, enough heat sinks to handle almost all of that if it alpha strikes, and enough ammo to go through a lengthy engagement. Ain't no kill like overkill, am I right? Oh, and the Bane 3 also has a streak SRM-4 because, why not? Filthy cheating clanners. There are several other things for the LRMs, but I wanted to go over the basics with a few advanced options that you might run across. For more LRM options, including additional specialty munitions, check out the Battletech manual or Total Warfare. LRMs can throw a bit of spice into a game, just not necessarily the spice you want or in the amount that you need. Still, few mechs will want to tangle with an Archer or even a Timberwolf at range with those massive LRM launchers. Keep your targets at a decent range and disincentivize them from closing. Just keep an eye on your ammo levels as well as your heat, otherwise things might go badly for you. Are LRMs your weapon of choice for Battletech, hanging back and lobbing volleys of missiles at the OPFOR? Have you used any of the specialty ammo like semi-guided munitions? Got any good stories about the LRM, whether it went well or poorly for you? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll catch you in the next video.